Hello, YouTube. It is March 16th, 2022. We're at the halfway point through our work week, so that's pretty awesome. Just going through checking on my plants. I got some more checking I gotta do. Some of them need some watering again. Some of them I think are going to be good for a day or two here. So we'll see what happens with all that. So yesterday I'd mentioned something, which was I was talking about not really increasing the amount of gardening I'm going to be doing just at this moment. I think I said I could increase. I could probably add like 12 more bags to the space here, but I didn't want to go overboard with it because I still have some stuff to learn, like canning, preservation, essentially. And one of the big things for that was, not letting it go to waste, because I didn't know what to do with it. Now, that's actually an area that I'm still working on and will probably have to work on for the rest of my life, and that's not being wasteful. And being wasteful, of course, I mean, you can be wasteful in all kinds of areas. Obviously, gardening. You can be wasteful, if you don't know what to do with your harvest and you've grown more than you can handle. You don't know how to can, or you don't have a freeze dryer or a dehydrator. You don't have freezer space. Things of that nature. Maybe you don't know how to make jams and jellies, stuff like that, which is something we'll be doing here, hopefully in the near future. Jams and jellies, that is. That's an obvious one. Now, I do want to point out that if you grow too much, especially if you are into canning and preserving, and you can still grow too much. And, maybe you start giving away stuff to friends and family and neighbors and stuff like that. I don't know that at that point would technically be considered waste. It's still going to somebody who can use it. So at that point, it's not going to waste. But if you don't have those means, and you can't preserve it, and you can't eat it all, well then at that point it's going to go to waste. Now, like with me, I unfortunately do not have the means at this moment to do any kind of composting. Composting, if I had that option at the moment, would solve a whole lot of waste. But you can also waste other things. For example, you can waste money. It's another area I'm not the best at. My financial game is not strong at all. I've never been the smartest when it comes to spending and such. But it is something I'm starting to pay attention to. And that can even incorporate into this type of lifestyle that I'm trying to get into. For example, spending money on finished goods when I can just make it myself and cheaper. Buying in bulk, even when it comes to, if you come across fruits or vegetables that maybe they're on sale and you have the option to buy in bulk because you have the ability to can them. Maybe that saves you some money down the road. That's a big one. Cooking in general, like making too much food, and that's one I've been guilty of quite a few times. I make more than what we can handle. Now, granted, we do leftovers, and I'm not saying that leftovers would be necessarily a means of waste if they're still being eaten. But if they're not, well, then you are. Maybe you need to reduce your portions that you're cooking. even when it comes to like the grow bags here. Um, Now, I don't see this as any kind of waste myself. So far, I'm quite happy with the ones that we've bought. They are so far standing up. Now, mind you, I've not even been doing this for a year yet, so we'll see how the test of time does. It's getting a little windy out here, so hopefully that's not blowing too hard into the mic. So anyway, um, but even like soil, mixing your own soil, especially at a large amount, could technically be cheaper than buying pre-mixed stuff. One thing I actually want to give a try, I want to essentially make a sifter, and I'm going to take that bulk like garden soil that I've got, which is a lot of like wood chips and particles and pieces in it, and sift it out to a finer soil that I might be able to use for some of my starters, because it won't have all the big chunks in there that could impede the seeds from growing and basically breaking ground. But even with that, you'd still save those wood pieces, and because they'll continue to break down. It just might take a while. Maybe that's how I start my composting. We'll see what happens with that. Another one is time, wasting time. Now that one can be a tricky one. So you're getting into time management. So you hear wasting time thinking too much about something. That one could be arguable, I guess. But I will say one thing I've fallen victim to, I guess you could call it. I don't know if I want to use that word, but one thing that I've fallen into the trap of, I guess you could say, is reading too much, watching too much, trying to learn too much, but never actually going into action, never putting that knowledge in play. That could be maybe wasting time. There's a lot of things. Water. Now, water here in Arizona is a big one. Now, unfortunately, the house I'm living in is a rental. Otherwise, one thing I would definitely explore would be rain harvesting. And even once we're able to get property, of course, again, I'm looking at moving back to Arkansas, and compared to Arizona, it rains a lot. I mean, the difference is quite considerable. And even then, I plan on doing rain harvesting, because even though it rains a lot more than it does here, well, it doesn't rain every single day, and you can still utilize that water, for example, on your gardening. So, for example, let's say I'm running off of a well system. Well, if I have a rain harvesting system that has enough water in it to continue the upkeep on the garden, that's less stress I put on my well. Things of that nature. If we run into any kind of drought situation and I have a storage of water that I've collected through rain harvesting systems, that can help. And it's a means of just collecting that water that would normally just go into the ground, and you make it work for you. And I think that's another area of waste management, I guess you could say, is instead of it going to waste, make it work for you. Food scraps, if you have the means, compost them. Make it work for you. Like with the rain harvesting, if it's raining out and you have the means to collect it, make it work for you. In the terms of wasting time, I think that's the other thing, is make it work for you. If you don't have the ability to get started, yes, by all means, do all the research you can, learn what you can. But the moment that you're able to actually go into action with it, go ahead and get started. Worst thing that happens is you start a project and you fail on it. You'd be amazed at what you can learn when you fail, though. So Stuff falling into my beard here. It's coming from this tree here. So that's about it. It's just my little, I guess, ramble for the day. I gotta get back to checking on stuff here. Gotta figure out what I'm doing for dinner, so we'll figure that one out. I currently have no clue, but yeah, I just wanted to check in, let y'all know what's on my mind at the moment. Get back to gardening. My little pepper plant over here. He's still looking a little on the puny side. I'm going to show him to you here real quick. He's doing a lot better than it was, though. I've actually got some new leaf growth on it that's looking pretty good, so I'm quite happy with that. I think a lot of it, of course, it looks like something's been kind of munching on it a little bit, so I'm going to have to look out for that. But I think a lot of it's just the temperature differences that we've been having. I mean, again, we've had in recent days, the high one day's, 85, 87. The next day's, 67. And I'm not talking like the low was 67. The high the next day was like 67. And then of course, this week the highs for most of the week are going to be mid to high 80s, and then this weekend it'll be back into the mid to low 70s. So the temperature's just been bouncing all over the place, and I think that's what's going on with that. And then of course my lettuce over here is not looking too hot, and I think again it's because we're going from 60s, 70s to high 80s, to the point where we're almost flirting with trying to break into that 90-degree range. And so it's not doing so hot either, so I'll keep an eye on that. The broccoli, surprisingly though, is starting to look really good, so we'll see what goes on with that as well. So anyway, that's just a little quick update on me today. So I'm going to go ahead and get on with what I need to do with the rest of my evening, and I'll see you on the next one.